What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. You are watching Flake Garage, and today we're going to be replacing the wheel bearings on my Mazda B2000. If you've been watching any of the videos that I uploaded recently, basically you know that I've been having some troubles with the B2000. It's been down for a couple weeks now. Basically, when I was driving down the road, I started smelling kind of this rubber tire smell. As we were driving, we started noticing a little bit of smoke. We pulled over and nothing looked wrong. Now that I have it here up on the quick jack, which again, super happy with that purchase. I started looking around and there was nothing wrong with the tire. There was nothing wrong with any visible hoses or anything like that. So the only other thing that I can think of was maybe brakes are getting stuck, maybe wheel bearing is getting bad or something like that. So we started taking everything apart, and let me show you here real quick. We are way further along. This is not gonna be how to remove this part because I've done that before. I'll link you guys on the bottom to another video where I went step by step on how to remove this, but we'll touch briefly here on it. But basically, let me turn on my other light here. If we start looking at the wheel bearing here, let me see if I can focus. I'm sorry, the spindle, not the wheel bearing. If we look at the spindle here, it's gonna be kind of hard to show you guys here. My camera's having a hard time. You can see some markings there on the edge. We also have some other markings here on the other spindle part. And then the back of it is also getting pretty bad, pretty scratched up. Back there, you can kind of see it there a little bit. So again, this all is pointing to me to a wheel bearing failure. So instead of, let me turn this off. Great lamp, by the way. I'll link you guys on the bottom if you guys want to pick one up. But basically what all this points to is that the wheel bearings or the seals or something is bad. We are most likely burning some of that grease. That's probably what I'm smelling as I'm driving down the road. I don't know when's the last time these wheel bearings got done. Might as well do them. They are cheap enough. I'll link you guys. I bought a kit from eBay that had basically all the inner and outer wheel bearing, as well as the races and also the wheel seal for the back. So I'll link you guys on the bottom. If you guys want to pick one up, it's great. If not, check out Rock Auto, check out Amazon. Probably find some good prices on all the whole thing. Or if you only need a certain part, then you can just buy those by themselves. But yeah, so without further ado, let's jump right into switching this. Let's do it. Hey guys, and here is pretty much everything you're gonna need to do this job. You're gonna need a rubber mallet, some brake cleaner, flathead screwdriver, preferably a long one. If you have this crescent wrench or something, you can have some of those. That's what I used to pop basically the back seal. Came in handy and made it super easy. So if you have one, use it. If not, maybe use something else like a pry bar or something like that. A breaker bar. You're gonna need a 19mm socket or 17mm socket, whatever you need for your wheels, some needle nose pliers, a blade. I have a couple more screwdrivers. They're all flatheads for right now. A grease gun or just some grease, basically high temperature grease. I use the red kind from Valvoline. It's been working fine for me. Some power tools if you have them. If not, just the ratchet and the breaker bar should be enough. You will need two sockets. You will need the 21mm for the back bolts for the brake caliper. And then you'll need a 23mm, or if you don't have that one, a 15/16 for that middle nut that holds the wheel in place. Your wheel bearings and races and everything. Again, I use these tools just because I could get them, but you don't necessarily need them. But I did have a wheel bearing and race driver set, and then the wheel bearing packer here. I'll link you guys on the bottom of the description if you guys want to pick one up. But yeah, some jack stands, some pads if you're going to be in the ground. They come in handy, and some gloves to protect your hands. That's pretty much all you need for this. Job is fairly easy, so let's get in. So if you have to do this job just like I'm doing right now, you are gonna have to take your brake pads and whole caliper section here, and then your rotor, and then the whole assembly out. And it's barely easy, it's fairly easy to do this, so don't be scared. You're basically gonna need a 21mm socket to remove the two bolts holding this whole assembly here in place, and that's this two. There is a third one here. Do not remove that one. That one needs to stay in place. It's literally just two bolts. They're 21mm. Once you take that off, set it off to the side. You can see here I have it on top of the jack. That way the line is not getting hung up or anything like that. That way it just stays there and out of the way. So then to remove this whole section, you're gonna have a cap, a castle nut, and a pin. And then you're gonna have another nut here. I believe this is a 22, I think. No, it's a little bit bigger than this, a 23-inch. If you don't have something that big, then just get some wrenches or something. It shouldn't be there very tight, so you should be able to remove that fairly easy. And then you have the wheel bearing and another little washer. And then once you take those off, this whole thing basically comes out, so you are ready to go as far as this goes. Now for the back, you can see here, I don't have my wheel seal anymore. One way you can take that off, especially if you are gonna be like me where you're replacing the whole thing, kind of just put it here on the side and grabbed it on the inside of it and then just twist it out and it just popped off. Probably not the best method, but it gets the job done. Here it is, you can see it. And now we are ready to remove the inner wheel bearing, and then we are gonna have to remove the races from inside of it. Now that part is gonna be a little more difficult, so we'll do that right here next. But yeah, looking here at my spindle, yeah, you can see definitely some scratching and stuff here on the edge of it. I'm guessing some dirt or something was getting stuck over there. Maybe it wasn't making a very good seal anymore. And then you can see also very dirty back there, so we're gonna clean all of that, clean all of this as well. I'm getting some scratches all around my spindle here. Let me see if I can focus on it. Maybe very hard to see, but yeah, there's kind of scratches all around it. So that's what leads me to think that these wheel bearings are toast. So let's get to work. We're gonna take this out, take the races out. Okay, so we have taken a little more of the grease out and everything, getting ready to take the races out. And I was taking a look at the bearing on the back, and I think that one is the one that was getting a little bit stuck, being very difficult to turn by hand and everything. Some of the actual little, I guess you would call them bearings in here, don't seem to spin at all. So I think it was definitely time to swap out the wheel bearings on this. And here, probably won't be able to see it very well because my camera can't adjust fully in there, but at a glance, at least not on this one, this is the front side of it, but on the back one, when it comes to the race of it, it does show some small markings on it. You can't really feel them that much. Like if I run my nail through them, I definitely feel a small groove on there, but it's not enough to where I would think it's causing like a major problem. Let me see if you can kind of see them there. Maybe there's some like lines going down, especially in this area here. Hopefully the camera is focusing well enough. I'm kind of having a hard time here trying to film it and shine the light, but yeah, there's definitely some markings on this outer race or inner race, I guess you would call it, because this is what goes against the spindle here. So there are some markings on there. So that combined with the wheel bearing, I just think it's definitely time to change all of this. Now, on some of this, especially like the front bearing, you might be able to see it there. There's a little notch right there. You'll look around, there's about 3 notches, I believe. This is one of them. There's like another one on this side and there's another one on this other side. But you would use your screwdriver or a pick or something basically to push this race out through that little notch. That's gonna be your easiest method to get that front race out of here. Otherwise, if you start smacking just on the side of it, that's actually part of this assembly, so you're not gonna get anything out. You're just gonna be wasting effort. And then for this other one, the inner also has some notches, so feel around, you'll feel it. There's one here, there's one here, and there's one here, and I believe there's another one over here. Yeah, there's 4 notches, so use those notches to knock the race out of place, out of here. I'm about to do it here in a bit, so I'll show you guys, but yeah, don't be just smacking the inside of it, otherwise you're not gonna get that race out and you're just gonna be wasting effort on there. Okay, and here you can see that a lot better once the race is out. There's your 4 notches. Make sure you're kind of smacking it out. Try to rotate between all of them. You just saw me on the video doing it, and the race is right here outside. There are some tools that help you put this in place better. They're not necessary. They just make the job easier for sure. and I like having tools if it's gonna make my job easier. So we'll show that once we get to putting the new races in there. For right now, we still gotta take the old ones out. So we got the front one out, that's the easy one. So now that everything is out of the assembly here, we are ready to put our new races and bearings in place. Sorry, the shadow here from my lamp is the one affecting it, but yeah, we're ready to put this on, and I actually got two tools here that are gonna help me do this a little bit faster. Usually I do this by hand. First one is this one. This is a bearing packer, basically. As you can see, I have a bunch of grease down there. I probably need a little bit more, not gonna lie, but yeah, we take this out, we put our bearing in place, push it down, and it's gonna pack it for us. And it's gonna be less messy than me having it to do it by hand or having it to do on a Ziploc bag or whatnot. So this should get them nice and packed. Again, this is not sponsored or anything. I just picked those up out of Amazon just because it's gonna make my life easier. And this is also a bearing, race, and seal driver set. So if you see it here, we have a bunch of different sizes. We're gonna find the one that fits with our race. And then we're gonna put this thing here, and it's gonna help us basically pack them down here nice and properly. This has a taper to it, so it fits with the race, so everything's gonna go down evenly. That in mind, we are gonna get the new races and the bearings here out of the box, pack them, and then set them in place. Let's do it. All right, guys, so there you have it. You saw me pack this one. Whole process basically from packing it inside of here all the way to get it in here using the tool. So one thing on this tool, like I said, is the first time I used it. I just got it. It works great as far as the outside of them. They are very, like all the sides in here fit the very outer edge of this, the inner edge on the race and everything. The only thing that kind of sucks is that the 63 millimeter is basically the size that we need, but the taper on this part of it, it was just not exactly, it needed maybe like a degree more of taper, and it would have fit like a glove in there. So keep that in mind. If you want to use this for this, it works. I mean, you just saw me put this in, so it works fine. I swapped between a couple of them a couple times just to make sure I was getting the very outer edge of it, making sure everything was fitting in there, and it's just nice and straight here, which again, you can do this probably with a piece of wood, a block or something like that. Again, I didn't spend much on this tool, so I'm okay having them. I'm sure I'm gonna smack something else that I might need this in the future. So very good tool to use if you have it. This one, I would say it's an okay tool. It did get the job done. It did pack them very nice and neat all throughout the bearings, so that's great about it. The application of it, like getting the grease in there and everything, maybe my grease gun just kind of sucks. But that was a little more complicated than just using the fitting on the top. It didn't want to fully work. I think that's more on my gun than on this. If you got the money to spare and you want to spend some money on this and potentially save your hands from getting super greasy, then that's one way to go. We have this pack. I might go put a little bit more grease just here on the outside. Try to pack a little bit more in there. If you saw, the outside of the bearing wasn't fully greased up. Everything on the inside is, so I know what I'm gonna put it in here in the spindle. I'm gonna spin it a couple times just so that grease flows through there and gets to the right place. But yeah, here on the back, pretty nice, pretty smooth sailing so far. So we are gonna flip this and do the other side, and then we're gonna be ready to put everything back in place where it goes. So hopefully that's gonna fix my burning issue, my rubbing, or it wasn't rubbing, I guess it was the seal here was messed up. So I think it was just having some grease being burned off and everything. So yeah, we're gonna fix that here in a bit, so let's do it. So there you have it. I packed the other one. On the front one, I don't know if I would have had something to kind of push it down with, honestly. So the kit definitely came in handy. That one does fit a lot better than the big one on the back, so you don't have to worry about that. It does fit great, and I got it in there, no problem. Took maybe a minute or two. Bearings all packed and ready to go, so we are basically ready to start putting this back in the spindle. I am gonna get my brake cleaner really quick though and hit this. I've been touching it with the grease and everything, so we wanna make sure the brake is clean, the rotor is clean and everything, so we don't, you know, have grease on our brakes and everything. So put everything back together here. Make sure you put that cotter pin in there. Make sure you put that castle nut, and we are pretty much ready to go. We're gonna put this back in place and then put the wheel on there and go take it out for a test drive. All right guys, and here we have the truck outside. We are ready to take this for a spin. Make sure nothing is rubbing, make sure nothing is smoking like it was before. So pretty excited about this. Should be the last step, and let's do it. So guys, we are back here in the garage. The truck is pulled back in here. I have the hood open again because I think I discovered that my battery might be bad. You know, don't you love it when you fix one problem and another one pops up? But that shouldn't be a big of an issue. I'm gonna take it off, take it to AutoZone, have it checked out, and then see if it's bad. And if it's bad, we're just gonna buy a new one. But as far as the wheel bearing, everything is working great. There was no smoke, no signs of any wear or weird burning or anything like that. So we are good as far as this repair goes. We're just gonna move on to the next thing. I mean, really, if something doesn't happen right after I fix one problem, do you really have a shit box? I don't think so. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what we're doing, please don't forget to leave a like, hit the subscribe button if you want to keep up with what we're doing, and hopefully we'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.